Thank you. I want to start by expressing my deepest respect to the presidents that are here, to the chair of the African Commission, to my two sisters, Amina and Ghazi, to my brother over there, the president of the African Development Bank, to a mentor of many of us, Secretary Ban Ki-moon, dear friend Feike, and everybody who is around this table. I recognize there is disappointment of who is not here, but let's rejoice of those who are here and what you do where you're leading the continent. Like Amina, I'm setting aside my prepared remarks. I want to reflect on what I heard from all of you and talk about three things. One, the context in which we meet. Second, the criticality to adopt the concept of resilience and for Africa to accelerate adaptation. And third, the role of my institution, the IMF, and how we partner with others. The context in which we meet. Last year we were here and we were hopeful that the COVID-induced economic crisis is behind us and that 2022 would be a prosperous year. Unfortunately, we were proven wrong. A crisis upon a crisis. We now are experiencing a cost of living crisis, a war in Europe, the invasion of Ukraine that has gotten an impact fast and far, and a climate crisis that this year, if anyone was still in the belief that somehow we will duck and it will pass over our heads, now we know it is dramatic and it is to be even more serious in the future. There are two lessons we draw from the context today. One, that we are living in a more shock-prone world, that we have to be mindful that we cannot anymore project the future, plan for it, and run our models because unexpected events would disrupt this planning. And second, we learned that our global cooperation is more fragile, that the risk of fragmentation is serious. And at the time we need each other more than ever, it is harder to come together for collective action. And yet we must. So Amina's call on us to embrace that hope of humanity coming together in the most testing moments. This is what I do from my heart of heart indoors. We are also recognizing that these shocks have exhausted our people. People are tired of the pandemic, and now they're hit a second time with inflation. In many countries, the fiscal space is gone. When you look at the debt situation for 25% of emerging markets, that is no more sustainable. Just think of Sri Lanka and many countries that are in this position. Actually, we see a country, a strong economy with strong fundamentals like Ghana, in a situation in which it is harder to tap into markets because of these exogenous shocks. And for poor countries, it is over 60% that are in debt distress. So when I look at this picture, what is the conclusion? No more we can think of our economies as relatively simple mechanisms in which, as long as we have the banking sector and financial stability, they function. Remember, after the 2009 crisis, we did something very wise. We regulated the banking sector. It is now more resilient. But that concept of resilience has to expand to be a comprehensive one. We need resilient people that are educated, that are healthy, and have sound social protection under their feet. We need not just resilient economies, we need resilient societies in which people feel that they belong, that there is fairness, that there are jobs for them. And we need our resilient planet. My institution, the IMF, has a very important task: macroeconomic financial stability, growth, and employment. No more we can deliver on our mission unless we embrace this comprehensive concept of resilience. That we look at social protection, social spending in our countries and make sure it is protected. That we look at investment decisions and we are confident that they are resilient. We have, and what does it mean for us? And here I would say something proudly. My institution, the IMF, today is systemically significant institution in the fight against climate change. We integrate climate in our policy analysis and policy recommendations, in our financial sector assessments. We integrate it in our public investment management assessments. So, Akin, we advise on climate resilient agriculture in these assessments, and we now have an instrument to finance, to put money where our mouth is, the Resilience and Sustainability Trust. It is now at 40 billion strong. Our main mission is to use this money to support countries to unleash the potential for private finance. So my dream is this 40 billion to generate 400 billion in financing for adaptation and mitigation in our member countries. In countries that are high emitters, the focus is mitigation. And let's remember, the more we mitigate, the less we have to adapt. In climate vulnerable countries, the focus is on adaptation. And I'm so proud that we have 19 countries from Africa notionally thinking of tapping into this instrument, which is the first we have at the IMF with long maturity, 20 years, long grace, 10.5 years. And two of these African countries, Rwanda and Seychelles, there we have advanced. And President Tshisekedi, we are hoping to advance in DRC soon. President Macky Sall, Senegal shouldn't stay out of it. We will talk with, we have that capacity now to be a force for good on adaptation. Since it has been a rather kind of a tough meeting, I want to finish on the light side. And the light side is, I used to be director for environment at the World Bank, and at that time, my favorite anecdote was the following. Moses is called by God. God says, Moses, come here. Moses goes, and God says, I have two pieces of news for you. One is good, the other one is bad. Which one do you want first? Moses says, please give me the good news, God. God says, you will be able to raise your hand, split the sea, and take your people to safety. Moses says, oh, thank you, God. After this, there could not be bad news. God says, not so fast. The bad news is you will have to make an environmental impact assessment first. Why I'm finishing with this story? For far too long, we thought of care for the environment as bad news, as a burden. But we are here today saying, no, nature is our home. Nature is our friend. Caring for nature is really great news. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kristalina, on behalf of all of us, for delivering on your dream, in fact, delivering on our dream, and being such a force of good.
I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Of course, we endorse the AAAP, and we endorse the ability to have a project preparation. We will work very closely to make sure that what we do is aligned, that cooperating with others is a must if we are to succeed. Apologies for coming.
No apologies. I mean,